Well, let's get more Scotland now. You might remember that in the marathon that is the run-up to the election, Emily is doing the Mateless Marathon, running around the country, interviewing people. And before those latest polls, she had been up to Glasgow.
Six months ago, the referendum took this country by storm, re-energising its people and its politics. I was here for it in Glasgow's late summer sunshine, and I've returned, this time in snow, sadly without my hound, to see whether the impact of what happened then has been long-lasting.
Now, this is the newish constituency of Glasgow North, and if the current poll predictions are right, this could be one of the first places that the SNP gains in Glasgow at a general election. Now, Glasgow is a Labour stronghold, always has been, but Glasgow is also one of the places that had a majority yes vote in the referendum 6 months ago. Whether that will change electoral politics here is the big question.
Labour hold 41 of the 59 Scottish seats, comfortably the largest party. But these are unprecedented times for the power of smaller parties. Technically, there are no swing seats between Labour and the SNP. That is, places with less than 10% between the top two parties. But with momentum, anything could happen. The Ashcroft poll is suggesting a massive 21% swing universally from Labour to the Nationalists. In other words, they'd stand to gain 35 of those seats. But much has changed in the last 6 months. Labour has a new leader in Scotland, one Jim Murphy. On the day we're there, he's meeting his leader, Ed Miliband, on an industrial estate.
Hello, I'm fine. What's your feet there? How are you?
These two are politically rather different beasts, but there's a show of unity for the cameras. And look closely at that suit. Next time we meet Jim Murphy, it will have disappeared. Didn't I mention he's a marathon runner? He's agreed to give me a pacey Glasgow tour on foot. But first, I want to talk to some voters in the shape of the sweatshop running community. Gavin, on the left, is an ultra-marathon runner. I am ultra-scared. David, a PhD biochemist, tells me he voted Lib Dem last general election and Labour in the past, but he's recently joined the SNP.
Oh.
Good run. Thank you very much.
No bother. Cheers.
I think people in Glasgow are fed up of seeing Labour politicians just every time election cycle comes around. They come up, they have the same sort of socialist messages, but their actual policies and the things that they vote on in Westminster, which we are putting under scrutiny now, just don't agree with what they're saying.
I see a lot of SNP politicians in Westminster, so I'm assuming they spend a lot of time in London. You've got somebody like Jim Murphy here now for Labour. Does he strike a chord?
No, personally, I don't feel the love with Jim Murphy.
I mean, I think he's very personable, and I can see why he was selected. And I think he might appeal to people that don't maybe engage with politics. But when you actually look at the policies that he has and the things that he says when he comes around Scotland now kind of contradict
like
what he's voted on. So he's basically a Blairite. So, but he comes up now and he kind of pretends, he talks about football and his connections with Celtic, and he tries to sort of be the everyman.
Stretch and then we swap.
I take their thoughts to Big Jim, seen here in a Scotland shirt. He's the man Labour hope will be their golden bullet. Jim Murphy's running habits are pretty hardcore.
But the only time I can find 2 hours in the day is at about midnight.
Does it have to be 2 hours every time you get up?
I like going on a long run.
I'm going to repeat that. He runs between midnight and 2 a.m. to Johnny Cash. No wonder I start to feel like his enthusiastic but easily defeated Springer Spaniel. And so to the question. Is he worried about talk of an SNP surge?
We weren't good enough for a long time. It's not going to change overnight. But I'm determined and I'm confident it'll change before the election. But I think these polls will close late. I don't think we'll close 6-10% in a week or something, anything like that. I think it'll be a determined effort between now and polling day. And I think Glasgow and an awful lot of other places in Scotland were thinking, I see the Labour Party's changing. I see they're getting better, stronger, more patriotic, and I know they're the only people that can beat David Cameron.
Is it hard to fight the SNP knowing that people might actually quite welcome your two parties together?
I don't think we'll need a coalition, and the SNP and us are so far apart on policies like fiscal autonomy. It would be so hard to reconcile, but I'm determined that it doesn't have to come up. I think Glaswegians, they want change. They don't love any politicians, but they sure as hell don't like the Tories.
They don't know who you are. They're saying, this Jim Murphy seems to be very Scottish, very socialist, very Celtic, all the rest of it. And they remember the Blairite Jim Murphy. And they say, we can't reconcile those two figures.
I am who I am. I'm still the same person. Scottish politics is different, and there's a different tone to it. So I'm still the same person. I'm still Scot. I'm going to talk about football, still a Celtic supporter, still a socialist, always have been, always will be. But I'm making an argument...
A socialist in favour of austerity?
Not in favour of austerity, I'm in favour of balancing the books. The Tories are in favour of austerity, I'm in favour of balancing the books. But I'm in favour of doing it in a different way.
Glasgow said yes to independence, but the country as a whole said no. This city's an easy place to seek out views, and maybe the heat of opinion means it constantly feels like a place where anything's possible. But somehow there remains expectation of change. An air of unfinished business hangs over it.